All right, guys, working on a Whirlpool Jazzboard style refrigerator, real basic bottom freezer style. The question today is, what do you do when you have to replace a 115 volt computer controlled evaporator motor and you are fresh across town, they're losing all their food, and you need to do something to get them up and running. And the only thing you have in your truck is this, a non-computer but 110 volt fan motor. Well, let's go through that. So this particular fan motor has these wires. If you were to buy a new one, you would get this wire harness on there. So we want to keep this wire harness for sure. And this is all in the name of getting someone up and running. So we're gonna go ahead and snip these right off. And we're gonna keep this wire harness so that we can plug back into the fan shroud. I've already taken the shroud off so that we pretty much can make sure this is all mounted up, and then we'll put the fan shroud and wiring back in. Quick video though, to show you how I would do this. We're gonna go ahead and take off the fan mounts. It's like our rubber grommet mounts so that it doesn't bounce around. And we're gonna set that one off to the side. And we've got our new fan motor, which will fit in here nicely like that. But we need to get our fan mounts in there. So we will put them over just like this on each side. And then we will put them inside here. And again, remember, all I'm trying to do here is get these guys up and running and make sure everything works. Now here's a question for you. This fan, I can't tell you which way it spins because it doesn't say anything about CW or CCW, but this fan motor, I can tell you which way it spins because of this little guy right here. This is your magnetic block here that drives the actual armature. So this magnet on this side means this fan basically spins this way. So if I was to turn it on right now, it would make this fan spin. I'll put the blade on just so you can see. It would make the fan spin this way to the, if you were looking at it, it would be clockwise. Now what's the problem with that? The problem is the scoops are going counterclockwise, and I can prove that why you would want the scoops to be going the direction of the scoop is because when I spin that blade, I can feel air going towards me. If you look at this refrigerator, it sucks air in the bottom, pushes it up and out. It needs to push air that way. So if the fan motor is mounted this way and the blade is here, the blade needs to spin towards the scoop direction, which means air needs to go that way. So that means we need to flip this motor around so that this magnet block is spun to the other side, which will allow the fan motor to actually blow air instead of basically do nothing if it's spinning the opposite way against the scoops. Some people say, well, why don't you just spin the blade around? It still doesn't work right. So the only way to really do this right is to get that motor turned around. So we're going to do that right now. Put your washer back on, just very carefully maneuver everything. Put your bearing, front bearing back on. And then go ahead and tighten it down. Sometimes you'll drop it. Make sure both screws are in there. That's why I like these fan motors a lot. They're very resilient and very flexible. So now, when I look at this fan motor, the magnet block is now on this side, which means the motor will spin this way. which means if I put this fan blade back on here, when I turn this thing on with power, the blades are going to spin to the clockwise direction because this magnet is pushing it that way. So just think about that next time you see a fan motor with a little magnetic copper winding right there. That is the direction. It's basically an arrow pointing the opposite direction. So when I turn this on now, the fan motor is going to spin this way, pushing the scoop, pushing the air, which is going to cause everything to work. So now that we know our blade is in the correct direction, let's go ahead and get this thing mounted, and we will worry about the wiring last. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Doing all this one-handed is fun. Normally I have my GoPro style, but it's full already because I'm editing several videos, so we are doing what we can to bring the know-how to the street. So we're going to slide these guys right back over, and we're going to bring the fan motor in line, and we're going to push it down. Now you have a mounted fan motor. It's still spinning. Pretty awesome. Now we're going to put our fan blade back on. I will link this fan motor number, part number, in the description, but that is the part number, the 241-854-301. And that will get you a solid fan motor to have on the truck ready to go at all times. This will get the job done and blow in there. So what do you do about the wiring would be the last question, right? So I've got some bell end connectors. We pretty much just use a crimper tool and some silicone to put inside those so it stays not wet. So this fan motor has a few different setups. This one allows you to have a ground, and so some fridges have a ground that you will hook up to. You'll notice everything on here is plastic, so we're pretty much going to get rid of what's going on that motor. So let's just go ahead and grab this. And you can start prepping stuff like this. Before you put this on. Basically, if you don't have a ground you're going to hook the motor up to, that's fine. You just take this bolt out, and now you've got your ground wire loose. All right, we know this is 120 volts, so we're good to go. We're going to go ahead and strip these wires back for this plug, and strip these wires back for this plug. Blue on this Whirlpool is hot and this one's neutral. It really doesn't matter which way you hook up a fan motor in this case because it's alternating current, so it isn't going to hurt anything. So let's go ahead and strip these wires back. Got that. We'll go ahead and strip this. All right. So we got our wire connections now. So in this case here, blue is hot, red is hot on the motor typically. So we're just going to hook it up that way. We're going to just do the spin trick, nice and tight. And then our neutral side. So we got that. Now we'll go ahead and fill our bell end connectors. With the grease. Wow, that's a lot of grease. Okay. All right, bell end connectors are full. Go ahead and slide those on. and use our crimping tool to crimp them down. Make sure you're pushing this way when you go to crimp these, that way they don't come off. We're going to use the little rounded edge here, right there. Push this way and crimp. Okay, tug test. Solid. All right. So now you have your fan motor harness. You're going to plug it back into the evaporator motor plug right there. We've got a nice sealed connection here and a fan motor that's free and ready to go. That will push air in the correct direction. So now we're just going to put this fan motor shroud back up here. And make sure it is tucked behind the baffle. And then put your screw up in there. And we'll show you what it looks like when it's done. All right. All right. Fan motor's in. Everything's plugged in. Fan motor's solid. All the wiring's hooked back up. And we can run a quick test. You can either turn the fridge on or you can run a quick test in these Jazzboard styles. You can go into test mode by holding the door switch in, pressing the plus button on the refrigerator 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then release. And it says SE. If you press the plus button one more time, it goes into the test mode. See how there was a 4 there and it disappeared? If I press the plus button one more time, it engages test 1, which is the defrost test. That 0 means open. Open means that this is not cold enough or it's bad. If this was all frozen in here and that thing said 0, that means that you would have a bad thermostat, and they would tell you that here. If you saw a number like 4 or 5, that means that's closed, and the defrost system would dim the lights and you would see it actually heating, or you could measure amperage right here at the orange wire going to the heater. So that's how you get into defrost. You can toggle it on and off. Right now the heaters are not working because that thermostat's open. That tells us that right there. Test 2 is actually the compressor and condenser fan. So you can just turn it on like that. You saw the lights dim, so now you know that's working. We'll turn that off. Test 3 is our evap fan. So let's turn that on. And look at that. Nice solid airflow coming up. And it's coming out through the baffle right here. And if the baffle's closed, you can actually turn this off. Go to test 4, which is your refrigerator thermistor. Test 5 is your freezer thermistor. It's basically saying pass. Test 6 is your actual baffle. So if I come over here and I hit open and the plus, you see it turning. And now you have airflow coming out of here when this is closed. Or not when it's closed. When that's open and the fan's running, you'll have airflow coming up through there. So now we're good to go, guys. That is how, in a nutshell, to take a 110 mechanical style motor and get rid of the computer style motor and put it in there. You can sell this as an upgrade to people who just want their stuff to last and not break again and not have a stupid computer break it. And it works really good to get people up and running. So that is one way that you can not have to wait for parts and have people down and blowing up your phone wondering when the heck you're going to be there. You can just get them up and running and then come back at your leisure instead of being stuck. So I'll link the fan motor part in the notes, and I hope this helps. Stay safe. All right, here's some additional bonus for you. One reason why these fridges die is because the heating element sits right against these coils and basically melts a hole through them. Some cases the coils are not touching, but in other cases it's better to get the coil away from that heating element. So I usually will kind of bend the coil out, which seems very precarious, but if you just pull just slightly enough, you can make sure that the coil's away from it, and you won't ever have any problems. So we want a nice good distance away from that coil, kind of like that, to make sure you never have any problem. And that's the biggest place where the leaks happen on these particular jazz board styles and Whirlpool older styles in general. So it's okay if the coil is just like that, and then you're gonna have a long life for this fridge. Thanks for watching.